dazzling. It's okay. I was trying to get my science-y paper out of it.
Let's see if Julian can change it a little bit.
Okay. It's hard to see all these wonderful faces out there. And I have good eyes. So, well, it's a joy to be here. And I know a number of people from here have been just returned from pilgrimage to Assisi. And of course, oftentimes, well, we've had some of you come to Ananta. That's kind of a pilgrimage too. And my point being that for us coming here, it's like pilgrimage for us to come here. Like Diva said, we've been coming for many years, about once a year, and at this point it's when we can kind of wrench ourselves away from the farm at Ananta village. But it is really like a pilgrimage. It's, we pilgrim to places of holiness and sanctity, and I think there's many unknown saints here in Portland, in Beaverton and Laurelwood, and it's just a very special place, made so through all of your spiritual efforts and devotions, and it's what magnetizes and uplifts souls who come, and for us it's just sweet, very sweet to come up and be a part of it. I was remembering a story, a true story, that Kriyananda has shared a number of times, and Swami Kriyananda, and it was of Ram Tirtha, the saint. And Ram Tirtha, let's see, it would be about the turn of the last century, so late 1800s, early 1900s, and he came to this country from India to spend time here, and he traveled by boat some way or another. He was able to book passage on a boat, and as they were coming into the San Francisco harbor, he was standing up on deck on the railing with many, many others, and a gentleman was standing next to him, and the gentleman said to him, as they were pulling, floating in, I guess, not pulling in, but said, do you know anyone here in this country? And Ram Tirtha said, no. And the man said, do you know anything about this country? And Ram Tirtha looked at him with this, smile and happily said, no. And then the man said, is anyone meeting you here? And Ram Tirtha said, no. And he said, well, do you have a friend here? And Ram Tirtha said, yes, one. And the man said, well, who is it? And Ram Tirtha turned and just looked right at him and said, you. And the way he said it, and just his humility and innocence, everything about him, this man ended up sponsoring him and, providing for him as he toured around the whole nation on this lecture tour. So, you hear stories like that, and they're common among the great ones. That's just how life flows. And but I know in my own life, coming to, you sort of expect, in a way, on the spiritual path, you just expect that flow. You expect, it's not that it's always easy, but you look for that flow and you anticipate that flow because it has supported you so many times, and you get used to being in that flow even when times are challenging. And but it's also what makes people. I remember when I first came to the village and came on the path, one of my family members said to me, that's Ananda, that's just a little piece, that's not really how it is. And you can look at Ananta. We live at Ananta village. We happen to live there now. We have, again, for the last 5 years. I don't know how many of you have seen the movie yet, Finding Happiness, but I love those aerial shots. There's Ananta, and there's Ananta village, and nothing but trees everywhere. You kind of forget that when you're in the height of the day. Even if you're on the farm, you sort of forget that. But we're out in the middle of nowhere, basically, and that's what's really what comes across in that image. It's real clear. And but that's also what makes it very challenging there. You know, people might say, "Oh, that's not how it really is." You know, I live in San Francisco, or I live in Portland, or what have you. But it's very challenging. It's a challenging area. It's an economically depressed area. It's an area. You know, things go on there as in any urban area, and it's a challenging time everywhere. It truly is. I mean, even you just read it in the news. Our homes, our schools aren't even safe places anymore everywhere. And even on and on, we had in this last month, September, Michael, bless his heart, came down last year and helped us a year before, anyway, on the farm thinning apple trees, and we prune them and thin them. And this year in September, we had a group of about 6 people. It took us a month to figure it out, but just come in at night and literally clean off 500 pounds of apples and take them off the property. And saying that they didn't know it was private property. Well, but so, you know, even out there in the middle of nowhere, you know, contrary things happen. And this apparent sort of flow and ease is there nonetheless. While the world might not be a safe place, Ananda is a safe place. I'm not talking here about the physical Ananda, but the consciousness of Ananda. Ananda means joy, Ananda means bliss. And when we are steeped in that consciousness, all this stuff can happen. And it's not that it doesn't affect us, because sometimes we are affected. We're short 500 pounds of apples, and that's a big chunk of our, annual production. But, or that we don't, hurt or feel when people go through things. But when we are in Ananda, when we're in that consciousness, we just learn to keep moving with it and looking for the blessing and serving and being able to help people, be with people. Life goes on, and we just see it in a bigger picture. Swamiji oftentimes has said, imagine the worst possible thing, not in the sense of magnetizing it to you, but don't get so comfortable with things that when the slightest little thing goes off a bubble or two, we start to melt. Just look at it and see it and acknowledge that strength inwardly. Dashwar put it this way, he said, look fear in the face. And our spiritual path gives us that strength. He said, Teshwar said his mother used to tell him, the word he used was appalling ghost stories. So he just had Halloween. And, to just, I guess, scare the daylights out of him or bring him to this point of revelation, because she would talk about these entities or whatever in some dark chamber of the dwelling, and he would just go look in the chamber, look in the closet, whatever it was, and he would just go right to it, open up the door, and nothing would be there. Just look fear in the face, just look at it for what it is in the bigger picture, of Ananda, the bigger picture of inner joy, the bigger picture of inner bliss. We have a friend who communicated recently with us who is losing their sight, and at a relatively young age, losing sight in both eyes. And we were corresponding back and forth, and this person is going to be able to get cornea transplants, which should take care of everything, assuming everything goes along. But sight, that's a big one. How, and on a subtle level, how we see the world in which we live. And we were talking about what sight is, and what losing sight is, and what having sight is, and we were talking about divine sight, because I don't know that all of you are familiar with the Bhagavad Gita, but at a certain point there's a dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna wants to see Krishna in his true and full manifestation. And Krishna says to him that you cannot see with mortal eyes, but I will give you divine sight. And if not to give us divine sight, for what other reason would there be tests? For what other reason would there be challenges on the path? But hopefully that through them, and from a point of inner spiritual strength and inner awareness of Ananda, of bliss, we see the challenges that come to us. We experience the tests that come to us, but we hope through them we gain that divine sight, that we're looking at that experience not just through our mortal eyes, but through that sense of divine vision. Lahiri Mahashaya said, solve all your problems with Kriya Yoga. And even if you don't have Kriya, let's solve problems from a consciousness of spirit. Let's look at life and challenges from a consciousness of spirit. That's the way to meet them. That's the way to face them. A friend of ours another friend was sharing with us recently, they had moved to the area and just didn't feel any sense of energy around any particular project or happening, or, I don't feel passionate about this, and I don't feel passionate about that, and I don't feel passionate about this. And it was like, you're a devotee, aren't you? You're a Kriyaban, aren't you? That's all you need to be passionate about. Is picking up our life by that thread and meeting everything with that consciousness of Ananda, with that consciousness of bliss, and being passionate about the spiritual life. The rest of it is just all fluff. We may have some karma here and some karma there and this to work out, and maybe we are interested in a particular thing. We do have a lot of karma around it. We do really need to go forward and work with it and that kind of thing. But still, it's from the place of the consciousness of a devotee. Still, it's from the consciousness of wanting to live more and more in spirit. And Yogananda, we think of his Paramahansa Yogananda, we think of his mission as Kriya. We think of, if we're familiar with the teachings, and we think of his mission as Kriya. We think of his mission as the translation of scripture, the commentary he wrote on the Bible and the Gita. But what he also gave us in a very real way through these is how to live a successful life. And I'm not talking here just about prosperity, but being successful, and being successful no matter whether it's difficult times, easy times, whatever, but always being successful. Because as a devotee, to be successful means that we're succeeding in working through our karma and being liberated from our karma. And that's all important, and we want to succeed at that. Even if we're whatever the job is, whether it's something that the world sees as important or not so important, whatever it is, we want to succeed because it's our karma, and to succeed is to be liberated from that. And we do that through Kriya. We do that through trying to pick up our life by our spiritual practice. Yogananda said, center everywhere, circumference nowhere. And he would use this sometimes as a definition of God, of divine vision. Being in that place of centeredness, Ananda and bliss. So that in whatever we're doing, that is the consciousness that's flowing through us, that's helping us to make the decisions, that's helping us to move forward, that's helping us to burn up our karma. Center everywhere, circumference nowhere. And we get that by spiritual practice. We get that through Kriya. And what a unique life this is, that we can be that we can have spiritual practice, that we can do Kriya. That's really unique. You know, and when we think of all the karma that we are all carrying around, you know, all of the aspirations, the seeds of aspirations that we are carrying around that aren't on the surface right now, because in this life we chose Kriya, because in this life we chose the spiritual path. But it would be very easy if we incarnate again, if we need to do that. We need to come back for some other karma to be to the fore. And it wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. It would be perhaps a really good thing, a really beautiful thing. But in this life, what came to the fore, what bubbled up for us karmically is Kriya Yoga. What bubbled up for us karmically was the spiritual life and spiritual practice. What a unique incarnation this is. And what bubbled up for us is serving in Ananta Portland Sangha with Ganga and Daiva and all these other wonderful souls. What a unique opportunity that is, to be a part of that flow, to be a part of that blessing, a part of that grace. Center everywhere, circumference nowhere. And so when we live in that consciousness of Ananda, of bliss, it doesn't matter where we are. It really doesn't matter what's going on out there. Not that we don't care about it. It's not that we don't care that someone took 500 pounds of apples plus from us. We really don't care. But, so sorry. But, you know, we see it in a bigger picture, you know. Maybe they'll learn something from it, those folks. Maybe they'll have a healthy winter. Maybe they need food and 500 pounds of apples. That's going to go a ways. So make a lot of applesauce. But the more we can, you know, live from that center everywhere, circumference nowhere, we learn to be happy. We learn to be happy with what is. We're happy in Ananda. We're happy in joy. We're happy in bliss. That's what Ananda means. And Swami Kriyananda, the founder of Ananda, he would just move. You just watch his life, and he would just move through, you know, life with that consciousness. And so things would just happen, and you would just kind of scratch your head. He told his story of he arrived in India. He arrived in Delhi, which is a sea of humanity, of millions of people. He arrives there, and the people who are supposed to meet him aren't there. No one's there. And he thought, well, I could frantically run around and try to figure out where in all of Delhi these people might be who are supposed to pick me up, or I could just sit here and wait and see what Divine Mother wants to give me. And he thought, gosh, I wish I had brought with me the address of my dear friend, Dr. Mishra, who he met in America, who he knows resides in India, a few hours from Delhi, in a place called Bhubaneswar. But he'd forgotten, and he was thinking about that, and sitting there and waiting to see what Divine Mother had for him. And this man comes up and says, "What is your good name?" Swamiji, as an aside, he said, "I'm glad they think of it as a good name." That's just what they say, you know, that's how it, what is your good name? And Swamiji said, you know, I'm Swami Kriyananda, and he said, "Oh, I thought so. Somehow I thought so." And Swamiji said, "Well, I'm here. I really want to meet a friend of mine, but I forgot his address. His name was Dr. Mishra." And the man said, "Oh, I know exactly who he is." And Swamiji said, "Well, you know, I know he's in Bhubaneswar. It's a way away." He said, No, he's in Calcutta, and I'm going there right now, and I'll take you there. And you know, his life, it moved that way because center everywhere, circumference nowhere, just being in that state of joy, being in that state of bliss. And when there was sort of a ripple or a scratch on the page, he just kept going, always expecting. We have that right to expect Divine Mother to be there for us. We have that birthright to live this life with God and for God, and with the knowing in our hearts that God is there for us and that God is with us and at all times. The other day we were having friends over and I was setting the table. They had come up from Sacramento to visit us. We spent a lot of time there as colony leaders, and I was setting the table in our house, and when we were in Sacramento, we had unlimited access to roses and gardenias. And it was such a luxury because before we moved to Sacramento from Ananta Village, we didn't have those things. And we loved having roses and we loved having gardenias, and now again we have neither. So I was at least at our house. So I was setting up the table, and I was remembering all the times we went out for meals with Swamiji. And we used to take roses and gardenias, and before we sat down, we always sprinkled them all over the center of the table. It was just like a little ritual that always happened. And I was setting the table, and I was just thinking about that, and I didn't have roses, and I didn't have gardenias. And right about then, our friends came bearing this whole bouquet of red roses. And not only were they bearing this huge bouquet of red roses, but before I said anything, they came up to the table and just started sprinkling petals on the table. Now, this person had never done this with us. It had never been, I know, because they came right when we were leaving, and that just wasn't, they weren't a part of that. They just started sprinkling roses on the table. And I was deeply touched because Divine Mother just so thoroughly permeates the lives of us all when we open to that, when we try to live in that center of joy and bliss, no matter what is happening. We had a young friend of ours this year, Andy Lyon, leave us, leave this world, 24 years old. It's a big test for the young people in the community because at a younger age you sort of feel like you're, not to be conquered, certainly not, taken away at that early age. But he had a cancer he had been fighting for years and had gone into remission, and did come back and he had gone into remission. So about the time we knew him over the course of a few years, and he was so dynamically engaged in life, regardless of what was going on. He was aware of the karma that he had in many fields, and so he was deliberately, really, seeking it all, working with it all, going to school, going to college, all of this. And by about the second or third year we knew him, he had landed again at Ananta Village, and he was living right next door to us in a group house for young people at the time. And his state of health was not very good at all. I wasn't up till about 11 in the morning, and he just really couldn't do anything. But he was going to hike the Pacific Crest Trail, and he was leaving in a couple months. And Ananta and I, we really didn't know what to say. We didn't really know what we could say. Here was an individual who clearly would not be capable of walking 10 miles, or to speak of, the Pacific Crest Trail. And he'd been working on this for years, and this was a pole star in his life. And I don't think we ever did say anything remotely even discouraging or real, at least what we thought was real. And so he left, and about a month later he headed off on the Pacific Crest Trail. Just when he started, what is it, 2,600 miles. And he hit the first mountains at Laguna, and there was, which was unheard of at that time of year, April, May. There was, already a few feet of snow. I mean, this is near Palm Springs or something. Just a really late snow. He had to go back, start again. But he did this. He many times his father would meet him on the trail, maybe walk 30 miles with him, 50 miles with him, something like that. At one point he called in and said, "This is so boring. I'm going to stop." And his dad said, oh, I was just going to come and meet you. And Andy said, really? You were? And he just hung to that and waited for Dad, and Dad got him going again. That was halfway through the trip. He kept going. He got up to Yakima, and he started to lose the strength in his legs, and he was falling repeatedly. And he thought, maybe there's something wrong here. I'm going to go check it out. And he got off at Yakima and went into the town, and everything was closed on the weekend. They were all shut down. And as far as he was going to go see a chiropractor, nothing was open. And they said, go to the hospital. And he went to the hospital, and once they saw him there and did some tests, they knew they had gotten something bigger than the usual. And anyway, they did all this stuff and found out that there was some wonder drug that you would only qualify if you had been through everything that he had been through, which was unusual. And anyway, the long and the short of it was that all the local people rallied around him and offered to a mule pack, some people who run, mule trains, off into the mountains, said they would carry his stuff if he would walk. Everyone wanted to see him finish. Well, he finished that 2,600 miles. His father went the last 60 miles with him in, it was either 6 or 8 feet of snow. That was at the end of last October. Anyway, the rest of the year went by. Andy was the kind of fellow, he directed his parents' lives. He was just connected, and he had the magnetism, and he talked them into moving to Nevada City and buying a house, lifting up roots and everything down in Laguna, a really nice place, Southern California. They pack it up, they move to Nevada City. Andy says, it's really close. I'm going to Ananta Village. I'm going to be at the guest house. And him even getting there physically was incredible. He helped build the new railing that's there. If any of you have been there, or the path that goes to the house now, he helped stabilize that and redo it. And he wanted to walk on his own 2 feet into that house. The oxygen tank, everything, and he gets in there. 3 days later, he leaves this world. Well, one of his friends was helping to plan them a memorial, and wanted the song to be played somewhere over the rainbow. And at the very last minute, for whatever reason, it's not important, but that did not come together. And we got there to Hansa Temple, for those of you who know it. And Ananta and I were leaving the service. And the minute we got out of the car and turned around to head towards Hansa, which has this view of, again, trees as far as you can see, we're out in the middle of nowhere. And there's this huge double rainbow perfectly framing Hansa Temple. And not just any double rainbow. I've never seen anything like this in my life. It was electric. And the whole bottom portion of the rainbow that was touching the earth, it was like every band of light was an explosion. It wasn't just a band, it was an explosion of light and color. And to look at it was just, it just took your breath away. It was like, Andy, what are you doing? And Jyotish and Devi were just leaving their house, which is over by the Hermitage. It's right next door to the guest house, and that's where Andy left his body. And from their view, that rainbow, double rainbow, explosive rainbow was perfectly framing the guest house. And, when you see something like that, and we've all seen so many miraculous things in this world, and in this case, miraculous exits from this world, but, how could we ever doubt God's presence in our lives? How could we ever doubt that this loving being, entity, reality, truth is there for us all of the time? Yogananda said that if we, in this life, are, come to the spiritual path, in this case, if we come to Kriya Yoga, if we practice, some spiritual technique, it's because in the past we have at the least yearned for that. In the case of Kriya, we've been yogis before. And I was thinking about that the other day and thinking, if we've been yogis before, and I'm sure this is obvious to many of you, but it was just coming into my consciousness again, then we've got all of these incredible spiritual samskars that we're also carrying around with all of our other karmas. But that's what we take. That's what our teachings say. We take from life to life are these samskars, these memories, of all kinds of things. In this case, the life of the yogi, Kriya Yoga, spiritual practice. And so all of those seeds are there. And, on the farm, this year we made a commitment to grow seed for a local producer of organic seed. So we're growing local Sierra seeds. Sierras is one of 5 main hubs of seed production in the state of California. And we need to run germination tests on this seed. And, you may get, it's standard, maybe squash seed needs to be 80%, not more. Near 80%, some of them need to be 90. I think some are even okay at 70. They never really say 100. Viability that they will produce again. But these spiritual samskars, this is good seed. It's all good seed. It's 100% viable. Every one of those seeds is going to sprout. Every one of those seeds is going to grow a perfect fruit. And that's our lives. We need to water those. We need to fertilize those, cultivate those, nurture them, and bring them to life. And that's where our sustenance is. It's not in this world. Whatever we do it with that awareness. Do it well. Do it. The Kriya path is not about leaving it all behind. Yogananda said, we will grow more spiritually in this setting, at this time, in this age, in Dwapara Yuga, than we could possibly grow if we were in a cave in the Himalayas. And that makes you think. That makes you think. Again, it's a unique opportunity. It's a unique blessing and grace that we have to be here. And if we can draw on those seeds from this lifetime, all lifetimes, there's a tremendous amount of wind in our sail. And we just need to go with that and live that life, that beautiful life that God has given to all of us. Thank you.
Well, first I'd like to add to what Maria said. It's a great honor to be here and to see you all and to be with all of you. And I'd just like to talk a little bit more about a couple of things that Maria said. And then maybe we could have questions and talk about what you want to talk about. But what I want to talk about was this idea that in the outside world, there are troubled times. We live in them. But if you take Paramahansa Yogananda's life from 1893 to 1952, pretty troubled times. I mean, we had World War I, we had World War II, and we got into the Korean War in his lifetime. He lived through in India, the partition. He lived in terrible famines in the world. There's always famines. There's always suffering. That's the nature of this world. So where are we going to go if Maria's right to a place of Ananda? Well, there's only one place of Ananda, and it's at the point between the eyebrows. There isn't a place that you can go that's safe, a physical place. There isn't a way of life that you can adopt. There isn't a diet that you can adopt. There isn't safety in the world of duality. While Paramahansa Yogananda and Rajarsi Janakananda were sitting meditating on the beach in California, World War II was going on. The entire world was dropping bombs and unspeakable tortures, and I don't need to go into it. You all know your history. And we live in that world too. As we're sitting here in satsang, there are terrible wars being fought, there are bombs being blown up, there are all sorts of weird things happening. Where is Ananta? It's at the point between the eyebrows, and it's in that state. But we have to get real comfortable with that state, and we have to dive into it so deeply that that is our default position. And then the reality of the outside world, which is, I will bet, just going to be continually an upheaval. Because I don't know if people go to this satsang to not be an upheaval. So we have to get comfortable with that place. And the way to do that is through daily meditation and daily satsang. And watching, as Maria was saying, your mental diet. Watch what you take in. What do you think about? Review the last 24 hours of your consciousness. Are you thinking about, it would be good to think about the World Series, but World Series is good. Were you thinking about the politicians and the atrocities in Somalia and in these places? Or were you thinking about the constant presence of the Divine Mother? Were you thinking about who tells me thou art dark, O my Mother Divine? Were you thinking about the stars and how they shine the light from the infinite to this world of duality? Were you thinking about the unity, or were you thinking about the disharmony? What's your mental diet? That's going to build your mental body. What's your mental body? Is it your thoughts and emotions? Are they uplifted? Are you on a worry fast, or are you on a forgiveness fast? You have to gauge, and that's why Master said, Yogananda said, make meditation a daily part of your life. Make chanting a daily part of your life. Go to satsang. Hang out at New Renaissance. Don't hang out at these trashy bookstores. Nothing's going to uplift you. Go to a good store. You're going to go to a store. Watch good videos. Take in that and make it a habit as a disciple or as a truth seeker. If you're not a disciple, that's fine. If you're a truth seeker, to keep your eye on the prize. The prize is Ananda, yes. It's Nirvana, if you're Buddhist. It's Samadhi. It's a state of calm and joy. That's where Rajasi and Master were while the Nazis were attacking Europe, while the war in the Pacific was going on. They were staying in a vibration of absolute calm. There is a place within you that is never in upheaval. There is a place within you that is never chaotic. There's a place within you that is full of light 24/7, 365 days a year, all the years. Because that place is your home. It's your home in God. That's the practice of meditation. Going there so deeply that when you go back out into the world of duality, it's going to be the same world. There's going to be this horrible discussion at the water cooler in the office that you don't need to hear, don't want to hear. You should be coming from that place of light, and if you can't say anything, just vibe it with the vibration of peace and kindness. Just put out that consciousness to the world, and the more you plant that seed, the more, as Maria was saying, those samskars blossom. If you don't cultivate those seeds, they will become an intermittent experience. They will become an intermittent way of life. And bit by bit, you'll actually forget that samadhi, that peace is your home. So you have to make a daily effort. There's no true religion that doesn't require daily practice. Because if you're a Buddhist or you're a Native American or you're whatever you are, you have to remember every day that there's, in the world, there's the light and there's the darkness. It's all around you. You must cultivate that so that that becomes so ingrained in you that you can, as Master put it, Paramahansa Yogananda put it, stay even-minded and cheerful amidst the crash of breaking worlds. Well, the world is doing some very good breaking lately, and it's going to continue to do very good breaking. Can we be calm and centered in the midst of that? Yes. if we anchor ourselves in God, because it's never upheaval in God. Upheaval is part of this world. This is the world where we specialize in upheaval, because the forces of light and dark are not in harmony, and they are going to clash, and we're at the meeting point of those two places. We're at the meeting point of that light, the point between the eyebrows and the outside world. And you see Yogananda, he made efforts to try to avoid that suffering. I don't know if you all know this, but he tried to meet with Adolf Hitler before the Nazi invasion of Europe. And he thought that he could reawaken in him some scars that Hitler had from a past life as Alexander the Great that would help him to avoid this Nazi dream that he had concocted. And Yogananda was unsuccessful in meeting with him. But he tried. We do have to try. One thing about the Swami, I volunteered this story, is he did get on a boat in India and make it to San Francisco with faith. Then he asked, do you have any friends here? And yes, I have one. Well, but he put out the energy. We have to put out the energy. We have to have solutions and offer Ananta College and Laurelwood and intentional communities and satsang and free meditation classes and yoga postures classes and education for life school. Yes, we have to do all that so that we can offer it to the world and say, would you like a little more peace, or would you like to continue in the realm of chaos? And many people say, no, I love chaos. I embrace chaos. I'm comfortable in chaos. I've heard that many times. I'm not comfortable in chaos anymore. I'm much more comfortable in a vibration of harmony. As you build that place in your life, and your meditations get deeper, our techniques, home, soft, home, energization, kriya, many good techniques, doesn't matter really. You have to find what's your own home, but your practice has to be so that the experience of stillness is so deep that the crashing worlds on the outside don't affect you, because in the last analysis, it is a dream. The crashing worlds is a dream. The only part that's not a dream is God. God is constant. God is motionless. God is love. God is joy. And all the crashing of the worlds eventually crashes and dissipates into nothing. But the light of God does not dissipate into nothing. It remains. And that's where we have to go. Once you have that, you try to deepen it. Every time you meditate, every time you go to satsang, you try to deepen it. Check out everything that you do at work, what job you have, what the tone is at work, what the movies are you watch, what books do you read, what videos do you watch, what do you watch on YouTube, what do you watch on, what comes in. Is it uplifting, is it educational, is it helpful? If not, out. If so, more. And weeding it out constantly watching for that. It becomes a stronger place, and you're sensitive to it, and you are uncomfortable if it's the slightest bit off. So it's a process that we go through. And then trouble times, whatever, they're likely to continue. I don't see the world coming to a big, giant one satsang with all religions coming together and all non-religious people coming into a harmonious exchange. I don't see that in the near or distant future. But I do see it in the inner kingdom all the time. All the saints and sages that have ever lived are living in that light at the point between your eyebrows. And there they are saying, would you like to chat? Let us sit. Let us enjoy bliss. Let us enjoy divine love. Let us enjoy peace. Let us enjoy kindness. Let us enjoy the reality of the Divine Mother. Let's live in it. So that's my solution to troubled times, since I don't know what else we can do for it. Do we have more time? Yeah. What would you like to talk about? Does anyone have questions or topics or anything, comments or anything?
Well, I'm curious about some things at the village.
Sure.
I'm wondering how Varani's goats are doing.
Veroni's goats are extremely healthy. There are now 84 goats. There are, I think there's, I could be wrong, 42 girls and 42 boys. And life is beautiful.
And they milk the nanny goats?
Yep. They have divided into the girl goats we milk, the boy goats we use for fire clearing. So we put them on steep hillsides and let them eat down all the brush. And Verani did, now this is 5 years, Verani did consent to sell some of her goats this year. Because we had 6 goats 5 years ago. We have 87 goats now. If we keep doing this and never sell any, how many goats will we have in 5 years? It dawned on Verani that yes, I'm going to have to sell some goats. We lost 2 goats to a mountain lion, and all the other goats are there. So yeah, she sold a couple goats to nice homes, and everything's good.
She has people helping her?
Not as many as she'd like. Verani works all day, every day. She has a little, she got a little trailer. She was really excited about it. It has a little bed in it, so she can take a nap there. That work is next to the goats. And she just, Udava and Verani moved down to the house that's really near the goat shed that Christian house in Monterey used to live in, for those of you who remember that. But so now they can live there and work there, so she'll be closer to home all day. or at work when she's asleep. I don't know which it is. Yeah, she has a couple of helpers, but Verani does most of it.
She always had them.
She always has. It was her mission. Master gave her that mission.
She loves it.
She loves it. She has no lack of enthusiasm for it, and we have a lot of goats.
Well, tell us something about your farming efforts.
We had a wonderful farm year. We had the driest January through March in the California record-keeping history, which is 1850 to 2013. It rained more at Ananta farm in June than in January, and that's not a good thing. So we had a real dry year, but since we are experienced farmers, we grew about 10 tons of food again. Maria mentioned we're keeping a lot of seeds. So we're keeping basil seed, Dakota squash seed, butternut squash seed, zucchini seed, what is it? Nardello pepper seed, bok choy seed, kale seed, crane melon seed, and arugula seed. So 9 types of seed. Each one takes a different treatment. A lot of handwork, all handwork. Maria spent many months sorting the crane melon seeds, which is to put them out and kick out the ones that don't work. So we haven't sold our crop because our boss, the head of the co-op, never allows us to sort the seed. So we have bags, and so we filled up every barn we have with seed ready to be processed. And we're waiting for that. But
Their machines are broken.
Their machines are broken. So it's kind of fun, and it's something that we used to do a long time ago, but it's rewarding work for sure.
I'll tell you because it's fun, and most of you probably don't know this, but to say zucchini squash seed, do not believe what you look at online. It's really not that simple. You let the plant, these are an heirloom variety, they tend to grow big anyway, and they're delicious almost no matter how big they get. But you let them get about this big on the plant on purpose, and sit on there for about 3 weeks that big until they're so hard that your fingernail cannot penetrate the surface. Then you harvest it off the plant. It's so heavy, I mean, I can hardly carry them. We stored them and dried them 4 more weeks, and they were so tough that nobody but Ananta could open them, and he opened them with a pruning saw, which is a heavily serrated, nasty saw that cuts wood. And he sawed them in 3-inch pieces, this whole long thing, so that we could, reach our hands in there and get this seed out. I mean, that was the process for just the zucchini. And the tomato seed, you have to ferment it, squeeze the seed out of every tomato, like you're milking a goat, and put it in a container and let it grow a layer of mold over the top. So by the time you're working it, it's very smelly. But that mold separates the gelatinous structure around the seed and causes it to disintegrate so that the seed ideally goes to the bottom of the container. So, every seed, and this is such a small scale, nothing about it is commercial. Like Ananta said, it's all handwork to get these seeds. And boy, does it give you an appreciation for what you get. It's one thing to buy a commercial seed packet at a nursery, but to get locally grown organic seed from small growers, it's definitely worth the price of gold. That's not what we're getting, but it's definitely worth that. So
We all the farm has been tucked in now, except we have hundreds of pounds of persimmons on the persimmon trees.
Wow.
We have 2,000 pounds of squash in storage. We have a greenhouse that'll produce all winter. And we have collards, kohlrabi, Chinese cabbage in the field. And everything else is turned under. And we had our first frost on Tuesday night. And I'm running sprinklers. And it's November. It's not good. But that's what it is. That's the situation right now. So it's a good year. And the cows, we have 9 Jersey cows, and we're happy with that. And the reason that we come to visit you in November is because this is the first time we can leave the farm for back-to-back days since March. So we actually get about 3 days off, and our helper is Christian. So it's Christian, me, and Maria, and that's our farm.
And Divine Mother.
And Divine Mother
Goodness.
is doing her part too. So all the food is consumed by Master's Market and the Expanding Light and the grocery store Mother Truckers, which is down the street from us. They eat all the 10 tons, and which is nice because I'm not really enthusiastic about marketing food. I grow food. I don't really market it. That's for other people.
We have to produce.
We have to produce more so they can market.
Do you make goat's cheese?
Yes, paneer mostly.
They make, actually more recently they made it's called chèvre. Chèvre, is that how you say it? It's absolutely delicious. And they have that and a feta. That's primarily what they make, and then the milk. So they used to do paneer, but they're not doing that right now.
So they have to be milked twice a day?
Yes, have to be.
Their cows are only being milked once a day.
That's
So
what
the
the
goats,
And it's a question of processing the cheese and the facility. We don't have a big facility. And so those types of cheese are the least amount of processing time and space. And that's the consideration. So.
I assume she's still selling raw, and people might be interested in how they managed to get around very strict California laws to be able to sell.
Well, the way we do it is you can't sell raw milk in California. So people buy shares in the herd And so they're owners of the animals, and as owners of the animals, you can drink your raw milk legally. So everyone that is in Verani, and the cows are doing it the same way. You buy shares into the herd, then you're an owner, then you can drink your own milk. That's the way around it. And that's how both Verani and the cows are doing it.
We still want to go.
Yeah, great.
We had a visit this year. Actually, that's true. We did visit the goats this year.
Yeah.
We go down and visit our goat.
So that's the legal way we get around it.
Do you have a new greenhouse besides the one you had, or
Yeah, we got another one.
where's it at?
It's next to the one we had. We bought an Oregon Valley greenhouse, put it up in one day, built the ends, and it's good to go.
Oh, BG, good job.
Yeah, it's really good.
How many acres are you farming?
20 acres.
20 acres
Yeah.
for 10
Cows, well, the goats go wherever they want. They just move movable electric fence, and the goats can basically go anywhere.
He's talking about the whole thing, that's
But the
not, you know,
permaculture plus another farm plus the cows is about 20 acres of land and the water.
What about the land that you're actually cultivated? That's actually
This
grown?
year, we only cultivated about an acre of vegetables
1
intensely and got almost 10 tons. By planting that really intensely. The other part of the land we just put in cover crop because the price of produce produced on that land by hand is not greater than the cost of paying people to do it. The minimum wage is 8, it's going to go up to 9. Theoretically, the price of food would go up too at some point. We use more labor and less fossil fuels than most any farm. So that's where we stand. We have about 6 acres that we could choose, well, let's say 5 acres that we could choose from that we could produce really heavily on of the 10 that are vegetables and fruits. And then we have 220 fruit trees in 9 locations. Efficiency is not our strong point. So we wander around with our little picking baskets and our ladders, and we pick these trees and prune those trees, and then go pick those other trees, and it's pretty crazy. But that's the way it evolved over the last 42 years. Anaya?
So how many people are involved with the dairy and who is involved in it?
Well, it's just Indra and Cullen own the dairy, and there's at least 3 helpers I know of. Lisa Clark, Stephen Lee, an Afghanistan vet who's just come, he's 23 years old, he's already served a tour in Afghanistan, now he's a yoga teacher training, and he's milking our cows. Kamran does a shift, and I don't know of anyone else that's doing a regular shift. So roughly 4 or 5 people are doing the cows, and for most of them it's milk in the morning, and that's it.
And who's mainly taking care of the dairy? Is it Cullen or Indra?
Cullen is building a house, and Indra is the webmaster. So they take turns in their spare time doing it. And then we have a little dog named Zeke, and we're training him to be a cow herding dog. And he had to go to.
He's bred for that.
Oh, good.
It's that kind
And he was bred for it, and he went to dog college. And dog college, the tuition was $2,300. Dog college. This is a special dog college for herding cows.
Wow.
Is he a blue heeler?
It's a black and white dog.
Oh.
I don't think it's an Australian sheepdog, is it? I don't know very much about dogs, obviously. It's a little black and white dog, and it looks to me like an Australian sheep herding dog. But Colin would probably slap me if I said the wrong. So edit this out on the film. But he did pay $2,300 to go to dog college. So.
Certificate?
Yes. Yeah, and advanced degrees and online courses. You put it on your resume or something.
Have you shared your farming methods with the people at Laurelwood, or has there been much communication?
Yes,
between
we
you?
are open 24 hours a day for farming consultation. We're also consulting with the Half Moon Bay farm. Ananta Palo Alto bought a farm in Half Moon Bay, and we had them come up for a weekend, and then we went down there for a couple of days. And
They're growing food by email. They mail directions. They mail back with questions, and they're making it happen. I mean,
It's
they make
great.
it easy.
We got the greenhouse up at Half Moon Bay. We're growing kale. We're talking about deer fencing. Someone said that Asha gave a class on Patanjali on deer fencing. The world is completely flipped. I don't know. Maybe when you guys left, the world just changed. I don't know what's going on. I constantly refer to Asha as Farmer Asha. She does not slap me yet. So we went to the meeting we were going to buy this farm, and David Praver said, "No, I really want you to come." He said, "Why?" He goes, on those tractors, I don't know which end is the front. I don't want to appear ignorant about buying a $1.7 billion farm. So we went with him and said, "Okay, that's the front of the tractor. That's the back." It was fun. We bought a full working farm. And Master it was a miracle. Tomorrow I can give you all the details. But it was just another miracle. And we own 6 tractors and 60 acres of land, and we have a whole bunch of water and no one that knows how to farm. So, it's great.
There's an app for that.
Yes, I can with an app.
Yes.
We and I are the only 2 people on the planet who don't farm.
I'll get one if it proves true.
Yeah.
Are there chickens?
No.
Nobody
The
has-
chickens, we have astral chickens. As soon as Peter left, the chicken population began to fall, and then the coyote population got more and more brazen about it until they were coming and stealing the chickens at like 3:30 in the afternoon. Like with Peter and me, it was about 5 they'd come, it was just getting dark. And they just were into it. They were like, "Hey, these people, they're not doing enough." So at 4 o'clock they were coming, and then at 3:30 they were coming. So they basically take out, and they took us out. And so we're regrouping. Atlan's thinking about how we're going to go forward. But like Maria said, we live in the wilderness, and we have bears, mountain lions, raccoons, skunks, foxes. What else ate our chicken? Oh, cats. We had domestic cats that we brought that ate our chickens. So, Vajra, former head of property services, will be glad to know that there are now 9 cats in the property services building because they're all kind-hearted yogis and go, "Oh wow, just one more cat." And then they had kittens. We have 9 cats in property services. So again, Vajra leaves. Things go downhill. Things go uphill in Oregon, but downhill. So, anyway, that's where we stand now. We're plotting. Ronnie has some chickens left, but a bobcat attacked her chickens and took out some of her chickens, and started. Once they make it a habit, so we're trying to trap the bobcat currently to relocate it. So I'm not sure about that, how that's going to work.
So does she have any ducks left?
Yes.
Yes, the what are they called?
Runner ducks.
Runner ducks are still going.
Oh, but I think she's got some Scooby ducks now.
We lost some ducks to the ravens. The ravens were killing the ducks. We really live in the forest, and we have one red-shouldered hawk named Screamer. He's never attacked anything bad. We like it when they eat the gophers. We don't like it when they eat the chickens. Right. So we haven't quite got our, ducks in a row. Okay, so no more questions? Gangamaya, do we close this? No, wait.
When I was researching fish ponds, backyard fish ponds, one of the things to keep the fishing birds away was just to string a fine wire from like the eave of the house up to a tree, so that it's not in the way of the people, but the birds would not come in because they were not sure that they could take off in case of danger. So I'm wondering if we can string
We
a wire.
currently have strung lots of wires and lots of old CDs. Someone told us that was going to help. So then I guess they just,
But you're used to it.
so far so good.
Gotta use really bad music on them.
Exactly. Send your bad CDs. You've seen the vineyards with the shiny things?
The tape,
Yeah, and usually it takes them a couple of weeks to figure out that it's just shiny stuff and it's nothing bad. And then in the fish ponds, of course, it's the raccoons. Usually you effectively stop one predator and then leave the door open for the other one. It's a great deal. We had a really low gopher count this year on the farm because Mr. Fox really got into our farm. He really liked it, and he was, every morning there's fox traps and no gophers, and so we were good with it. Just so you know, a fox can run at top speed and jump through field fence, which is a 4-inch square, at full bore and put its somehow elongate, go through, bounce, and go through that fence again on just a run without ever slowing down. So it's really beautiful to watch, especially if you've got a gopher in the mouth. Yeah, exactly. The eco balance that we all love. Okay, Diva. Tomorrow morning we're going to have, well, you'll tell